Fun fact, there are about 24 unique 1-1s across every mainline Mario game. But I'm sure that's something you already knew, right? Right. So how about this? Just how long would it take to make all 24 of those 1-1s in Mario Maker? A month? A week? What about 12 hours? Or what I should be saying is how many somewhat accurate, including subworlds and hidden secrets, 1-1s can you make in 12 hours? I have no clue. I'm recording this before I started the challenge, so let's find out. The first level I started off with was none other than the original 1-1 from Super Mario Bros. 1. A classic level with very basic elements like some pipes, Goombas, Koopas, and such. So as you might have imagined, it wasn't too tough to make. Well, I say that, but then I spent 10 minutes trying to make a 1-to-1 recreation, see what I did there, of the subworld because of my inability to count the amount of blocks in it. But if you just ignore all of that, it's like I said, pretty easy. So at this point, I was about 40 minutes into the challenge with Super Mario Bros. 1-1 complete, which is about how long I expected it to take. Because Mario Maker essentially has every tool you'd ever need to make a recreation of one of these retro games, and on top of the fact that there are just 2D side-scrolling levels, I didn't expect any of the 2D levels to take more than 45 minutes at most. In fact, there were only 9 out of the 24 1-1s that were actually a concern to me, those 9 being the 3D levels, and I don't really think I need to explain why that's the case. So anyway, the next 1-1 I worked on was the one from the Lost Levels. You know, the one that was considered too hard for us Western folks, even though the game probably had more hidden blocks than power-ups. So can you really call it a skill issue? I beg to differ. Any Lost Level enjoyers? I played it, but it sucks. Lost Levels was the worst game. Guys, come on now. You gotta give some more love to Lost Levels. I'm gonna play the Lost Levels and I'm gonna force myself to like it and be the only Mario fan alive that defends the Lost Levels. Guys, it wasn't that bad. You're over exaggerating. Now, despite the Lost Levels being one of the most hated Mario platformers out there, building it wasn't nearly as tough as playing it. Just like with Mario 1, the overall course design is pretty simple, especially when compared to the other 3D games or Mario Wonder's first level. So within another 40 minutes, I was done with the Lost Levels 1-1, bringing me up to 2 levels out of 28. Now, if you were paying any attention earlier, you know that I said that there were 24 mainline Mario games. So why did I say 28 just now? What happened? Well, my chat happened. Yoshi's Islands counts as a mainline game? How many Yoshi's Islands are there? There's like 2, right? Yoshi's Island is not a mainline game? Does nobody know? Is there like no official like confirmation? What if I just do a poll? It's a yes? You got a yes? Oh, somebody broke the tie. I think it's these 3 that we want to focus on. World, Yoshi's Island DS, and a new island. No, we don't count those. Wario? No, that's a stretch. Princess Peach Showtime? God dang no. Princess Peach's Toads have more screen time than Mario in that game. Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land? I mean, I don't want to count that. Does that? Let me see. Is that? Oh, is it direct sequel to a mainline game? All right. We'll add Wario Land, or yeah, we'll add Wario Land. If this is the chat, people are gonna kill me in the video. Like, how dare you include Yoshi's Island? So after a lot of back and forth, I decided to include Wario Land and the 3 main Yoshi games. Well, 2. Because later on I looked at Yoshi's Island DS and it just looked like the original, but on the DS, and with a few changes. I don't think anybody wants to see me make the same level twice. Probably. Anyway, the next level on the list was Super Mario Bros. 2 1-1. And remember earlier when I said that the 2D games were pretty simple to make? Well, I ended up eating those words with this one. It's not like SM2 was hard to recreate or anything. No, far from it. It's just that they packed so much into this game's first level, it's insane. Off the top of my head, this level was divided into 5 different sections. You start by making your way down a vertical area, then move into the biggest section of the level being the typical horizontal side-scroller, then you have multiple hidden doors that lead to areas of secrets, then you end up going through another vertical area, and finally you finish off with a boss fight against Birdo. There was legitimately so much in this level that I could not make all of it and had to ignore things that were out of the way from the main path. And even then, I had to squish down some parts of the level to make sure I had enough space. Nintendo, for the love of God, let us make larger levels in Mario Maker 3. So unlike with SMB 1 and 2, it took me twice as much time just to get to the Birdo fight. And as if I wasn't already behind enough, I ended up going back and forth with my chat as to how to make the Birdo fight, which took an extra 20 minutes, meaning it had taken me an hour and a half to make SMB2's 1-1. I was able to get back on track with SMB3, which took me the usual 40 minutes or so, but at this point, I was about 3 hours into the challenge, and with SMB2 taking me so long to make, it was pretty clear that I needed to knock out some of the 3D games, and a hard one too, being Super Mario Sunshine. What I consider to be the first level for the 3D games is essentially the main path you need to take to reach the intended first star. You can essentially replace first level with first star for the 3D games, which in Sunshine's case is the one you get from defeating the piranha plant at the top of the hill. I have no idea what those things are called. Now since Sunshine is a 3D game and Mario Maker is a 2D level maker, I just tried to represent the different aspects of Bianco Hill in a 2D setting to the best of my abilities. And since the 3D games are on a bit of a bigger scale, I'll explain the different sections that I made. The first thing you do after landing in Bianco Hills is sliding down this really long downward slope that ends with a tightrope to get across a river, which wasn't really tough to make. I just made a downward slope and used donut blocks for the tightrope, since if you stand on it for too long, you'll fall into the river. Then there's a small village with multiple buildings, and this is going to sound weird, but I used cloud blocks to make the houses to represent how you can run around the houses in the game, because I didn't want to use solid blocks that made you jump over every house. Hopefully that made sense. Next I made the water wheel that's around this corner, and I'll let past me speak for himself here. Yes. Oh, symmetry. My worst enemy. Oh, symmetry, my worst enemy. Why does it always have to be like this? What if I put a track, then put the saw on the track? Oh, symmetry. Wait, can this not be symmetrical? Or am I being stupid? Well, I guess you just have to hold forward. Alright, that works well enough. We got it. Now, after the water wheel, there's a bit of an open area with goo and enemies scattered around, so naturally I just made a straightaway and added in some Goombrats along the path. And of course, the last element that I added in was the Murky Piranha Plant mini-boss. Honestly, I didn't want to spend too long on this part, so I put 3 piranha plants stacked on each other, which represents how you need to spray the Murky Piranha 3 times to defeat it, and put a pipe dispensing a spike ball to represent the piranha paintballs that it'll spit out. And just like that, Bianco Hills is complete. Well, I say that, but it took me... you're joking. Bianco Hills took me the same amount of time to make as SMB2's 1-1? I was literally eating while making Bianco Hills. How did that... SMB2 really did have too much. Anyway, this was no time for me to relax, because I still needed to knock out a couple of the 3D games before I felt comfortable going back to the 2D ones. And the next one on the list was none other than... One of the good things about 3D World is that unlike most of the other 3D games, this one more so follows the 2D Mario level design, with a beginning and flagpole and a linear path to reach said goal, which made recreating it a lot easier for me. But the other great thing about it is, the game is literally the same in Mario Maker 2, so a lot of the things in that game are also present in Mario Maker. Except for the Mega Mushroom. And the green stars. And the bunny. And also Longbow. Okay, maybe there's a couple of things missing. Point is, 3D World wasn't much of a struggle to make, even though it still took me like an hour. Up next was the favorite of every 90s kids, or okay, Super Mario 64 is what I'm talking about. The first level of that game is Bob-omb Battlefield, which is split up into 2 different sections, the battlefield area and the mountain, which would be 2 of the things I needed to make since you get the first star by defeating King Bob-omb at the summit. Now, there wasn't really anything interesting to take note of while building the first half of Bob-omb Battlefield, so instead, here's a clip compilation of discussions I had with my chat until we get to the mountain section. Enjoy! I ate a Goomba. I need the Super Mario, the Mario like attraction park. I need them to like make a new dessert or dish, and it's just Goombas. All Goombas. What if they made a Goomba burger? What if they made a burger, but the meat is shaped like the Goomba? Yes, dude. I am giving Nintendo ideas right now. Yeah, I need somebody to make a Goomba shaped burger and then present it to Nintendo. That right there is going worldwide instantly. No, Electro, I do not particularly partake in such endeavors. Unless it's in multiplayer versus, because then I get to eat other players, and it's funny. What, are you telling me you don't, Electro? You don't love just like eating up the other players and then spitting them out and then eating them again and then spitting them out and then eating them again and then spitting them out multiple times? Personally, it's my favorite activity in versus. Honestly, if you're not doing that in versus, like, what are you doing? Why are you even playing versus if not to be eating other players with Yoshi? Like, I tell you, I don't. It's the biggest form of enjoyment. What if there is no Yoshi? If there's no Yoshi in the level, then I just leave until I do get one. But for some reason, people tend to block me whenever I play as Yoshi. I guess they just don't enjoy when I just start eating them, you know? It's weird. Bro, you can't blackmail me like that. What if you made a demand? Or instead of a demand, you could just pay me. You could bribe me. You probably have a higher chance of success with that. We love bribery. No, actually, don't do bribery. It's Take one Electro coin. Is this supposed to be like Bitcoin but with no value whatsoever? Is that what I'm looking at? Alright, so for the mountain section, I can't really imagine any of you would have thought it was hard to make. It's literally just a climb up a mountain with some metal balls that you need to avoid. So I just added a bunch of smooth slopes ascending to the max width of the stage and also had some spike balls rolling down them until eventually reaching the top where King Bob-omb stands. Now, I don't think anybody here needs a summary of how this fight works, but in case one of you out there has been living under a rock, I'll give a brief explanation. The goal here is to run around King Bob-omb to his backside, grab him, and then throw him onto the ground so he takes damage. And you need to do that 3 times? Or is it 2 times? I think in the original Mario 64 it's twice, but in the DS version it's 3, though I might be wrong. Someone can let me know in the comments. The video I was watching was showcasing the DS version though, so I went with that. Anyway, when it comes to how I make King Bob-omb, you might have thought that I would have used a large Bob-omb and came up with some intricate contraption that makes you grab him 3 times before winning, but I didn't. I just used Lemmy. Why? Because his ball's pushing away in the same way that King Bob-omb can throw Mario away. And then I had Bob-ombs dispensing from a pipe because the DS version has him throw his Bob-omb offsprings at Mario. I guess big guy over here is really trying to get out of child support. It's okay, man. I can relate. I mean, like I said earlier, you have to grab King Bob-omb 3 times to defeat him, so I didn't want to have Mario simply jump on Lemmy's head, but instead use the Bob-ombs from the pipe to hit him, which I made necessary by putting a muncher on Lemmy's head. And that was Super Mario 64's Bob-omb Battlefield, bringing our total number of 1-1s made up to 7 with about 4 hours remaining in the challenge. Now, I'm sure that most of you might have guessed that at this point, there is no way I can make 21 more of these levels in 4 hours. If not, spoiler warning, after the spoiler. I mean, even if I did completely focus on the 2D games, which like I said take about 30 to 45 minutes per level, the math just wouldn't math. So the question is, how many more of these 1-1s can I make before I hit the 12 hours? And to keep things interesting, I won't show or mention how many levels I made from this point on, so you can think of an answer right now and later see if you were right. I never understood why they make Super Mario Land the block so small. Like, look at this. This is the size of a block in this game. It's tiny. It's minuscule. Who thought this was a good idea? Like, how hard is that gonna be to hit, is what I mean. Yeah, they really were just trolling with that one, huh? I actually just want to play the game just to figure that out. There wasn't anything noticeably tough about Super Mario Land, it's just your average 2D Mario platformer. And when I say average, I mean average. Like, this game came out after Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3, which had way more creative 1-1s, and then with Land, it's like they took a step backwards to Super Mario Bros. 1's level design. Of course, this is just the first level, so it could get a lot better from here, but I'd have no clue personally. Now, I say all of this, but out of all the 2D games I had done so far, Land did take me the longest. Yes, even surpassing Super Mario Bros. 2 by about 10 minutes. And that gap only got wider and wider. Not only was I losing steam with each hour pass, but more importantly, it started to get so late into the night that I couldn't talk.
What?
Okay, so I might have a little bit of a loud voice, and that little bit of a loud voice might often give the people in my apartment some trouble sleeping. So to avoid that, I just didn't talk, which made me become a lot more aware of the passing of time, since I wasn't essentially distracting myself by chatting away with chat. All of a sudden, everything seemed to move a lot more slower, while the clock seemed to be moving a lot faster. Yes, I promise I was not on something. So things really were not looking good for me. But if I had to choose the single most important thing that happened during this challenge, it would be this message right here. This was seriously game changing for me. Listen, I had no clue you could just look up a map viewer of Mario games on the internet. Yes, I'm a boomer. Yes, I live under a rock. Please don't criticize me. But the reason why this was so huge for me is because instead of having to go look for an entirely new video to make sure that the one I was watching didn't skip over any secrets, or to make sure that I had the proper items in every block, I could now just see all of that in the map viewer, which was a lot more time efficient, to the point where I went from spending almost an hour on every level to closer to 30 minutes. So just like that, I was back in it. Until I got to Yoshi's Island. That game was basically Super Mario Bros. 2, but a little less. Especially because of these pillar-like platforms which I had to make so many times. Like seriously, I had to make these things... let me just turn on my Switch really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 times! But of course, I did eventually complete it. After that was Wario Land's 1-1, one of the games that my chat asked me to make. The level wasn't really that complex, but there were some parts where I was questioning what was supposed to happen, like this subworld area with 3 different entrances, which I guess is one of the downsides of the map viewer, because if you're recreating a game that you've never played, then you can't know how some of the things are supposed to work in-game. But at this point, I had about less than an hour before my time was up, and I knew that whichever 1-1 I chose next would be the very last, so I needed to make sure that it was one that I could complete in time. And it was none other than New Super Mario Bros. DS, the first entry into the new series. This game is pretty close to the type of levels we get in modern Mario games, but at the same time, because it was what you would call the 2D Mario Renaissance, the design of its 1-1 was probably on the simpler side, except for the part where Mario Maker doesn't have the Mega Mushroom, which I'm sure you're all wondering how I recreated. Well, my plan was to simply use the Big Mushroom from the SMB1 theme and call it a day, but I was given what was probably a better idea. Combine the Superstar, Spiny Helmet, and Fire Flower to make up most of the properties of the Mega Mushroom. The only thing missing was the ability to break literally anything in your path, but I was not about to be picky when I had like half an hour left. The other thing to note was that this was the first 1-1 to feature multiple subworlds with different themes, which I love Mario Maker. Anyway, I just used the ground theme for both subworlds and then used the cloud blocks for the sky area and hard blocks for the underground area. And after that, with only a couple minutes left on the clock, I made the last remaining section of New Super Mario Bros. DS 1-1. If you're curious at what time I finished that, it was 2 AM in the morning. So, how many did I manage to recreate? Well, let's see if any of you are right. Alright, starting off with the first 3, we got SMB1, Lost Levels, and SMB2, so that's 3. Then we have SMB3, just said 3, go figure. Super Mario Sunshine, 3D World, and 64, so that makes 7. Then we have Land, Super Mario World, Super Mario Land 6 Golden Coins, Super Mario World Yoshi's Island, please don't kill me on that one. So that makes 11, and then we have Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land, and New Super Mario Bros. DS, which brings our total up to 13 levels out of 28. 13 1-1s out of 28. Yeah, so I managed to get about half of them, which I'm not too sure if that's good or not, so I'll just go with average. And the key takeaway from all of this? Don't ask your chat which Mario games are considered mainline, you will regret it. Oh, and I probably should mention this, but I have a Discord server that I just never promote because I'm bad at stuff like that. It's not a huge one or anything, but it'd be cool to see more of you all from the YouTube side join in. Besides, what's one more server added to the 31 muted ones you're already in? So if you feel like joining, link will be in the description.